Hey everyone, pro photographer Ian Plant here, and in this video I am joined by two pro photographers, Shanda Akin and Martha Montiel. They have joined forces to launch an exciting photography conference in Durango, Colorado in October of this year. It is the Horizons Photography Conference. I'm going to be one of the speakers. It's going to be a great event and I'm looking forward to it. So join me as I talk with Shanda and Martha about their photography, their photo education philosophy, and why the Horizons Photography Conference is different than all the others. If you want to learn more, then stay tuned. Hey, Shanda, Martha, welcome to PhotoMasters.
Thank you for having us. Hi.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I'm so glad to have you on so we can talk about the upcoming Horizons Photo Conference in Durango, Colorado in October. That is a fantastic time to be in Colorado because that is the peak of fall color.
It absolutely is.
Well, good. Let's start off. If you can tell me a little bit about your backgrounds and how you got into your photography. Basically, I'm looking for your origin stories as photographer. Shanda, let's start with you.
Sure. Mine basically started, I spent 25 years in the Air Force, and about halfway through when I was realizing that I was witnessing these remarkable things in my life and I had camera in hand. So I've always taken my camera everywhere and been the one taking pictures. I decided that I need to get serious about how to operate my camera. And so I took this class at Clovis Community College and I learned the basics. So the pillars of light, etc. And then I had to deploy and then I moved and just figure out, like a lot of us photographers, how to learn on my own and do some workshops and YouTube and etc., etc. And then I retired from the Air Force and came back home to Durango, Colorado in 2019. And I started my own business and I'm now currently in a Master of Arts program for photography. And I have 4 more classes to go and I will be done in December.
Well, that sounds great. And obviously today we're going to be talking about continuous photo education. But before we do that, Martha, let's turn it over to you. Your origin story as a photographer. How did you get involved in this?
So I actually, I did study graphic design and illustration when I was in college. And I've always been interested in the arts and photography. But I always had like a point and shoot or even like the disposable cameras. So when I was in college, I signed up for a photography class. And I was hooked. I learned with a borrowed camera and I learned to develop my own film. So it was just fascinating to see the images come to life. So the bug was instilled in me, but I just couldn't afford a camera back then. And one of my close friends, she's also into photography and she loves nature. So we used to go hike and backpack and it would take us forever to cover any ground because we would stop and photograph plants or flowers or the landscape. And we would dream about like eventually doing like a photography trip, like exclusive, trip for photography, but we never did. So then I went to Europe and I bought a point and shoot camera, which didn't work. So I bought a whole bunch of disposable cameras, and that's how I recorded my trip. So I think travel, adventure, and nature is part of my DNA. As I got older, I've been able to travel more and always with a camera on hand. So I wanted to record everything and share what I saw with my parents or with family. So I started posting on Instagram and those images, I kind of cringe a little bit because they were just bad. But I got feedback, like I got comments and followers and stuff. So it's kind of what inspired me to pursue this. And so I started reading more about photography. I learned how to shoot manual. And I think when I started knowing how my camera works and shooting in manual is when it opened up the doors. So I just kind of took off from there. It wasn't a thought that I wanted to do this, but I never actually seriously pursued it until it just kind of happened.
Well, those are both excellent origin stories. I'm glad that both of you found photography at some point in your lives. Like most of us, we did something else first, and then we got into this, and it's really addicting. I mean, I talk about my origin story where it involved me buying a camera thinking it was just going to be a hobby, and before I knew it, it completely taken over my life. And so it's great to connect with other passionate individuals who just love this form of art. And so that leads me to ask you about the Horizons conference that you guys are organizing. This is definitely going to be a community event that brings together photographers from all over the country, maybe all over the world, and allows them to share their passion together. So there's a lot of photo conferences out there. How is the Horizons conference different? And what's your vision for Horizons? And how might that be different from the other conferences that are out there?
What I learned when getting involved in photography is that nature and landscape photography is kind of like by definition an isolated hobby or a job. Most of us end up going to places by ourselves. Like nobody really shoots in groups unless you're part of a workshop.
Sorry to interrupt, but back in the day, people who got involved into landscape photography did so because they wanted to get away from people. So it's very antisocial.
Right. We're trying to change that.
There is a value, though, even in individuals coming together at times, because there is value in networking and community. It doesn't mean that, you have to stop being an individual or go out on your own, but there is a huge value in community, though.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, let's talk more about that then. You're bringing people together to build that community.
Yeah. So we kind of wanted to, but when the idea came about, putting the conference together, we knew that connection had to be the priority. So Horizons Photography Conference was built to be like a counterbalance to that isolation, right? So a place where people with the same passion for nature and landscape could be in the same room, not competing, but collaborating, sharing, and learning. We wanted to create a space where friendships could form, where people could find shooting buddies or mentors or simply just others that understand, like, the thrill of, waking up at ungodly hours in the morning and being on the ridge, waiting for the first light. So our approach has been to build a community.
Well, I think that's great. And even though I'm as antisocial as any other landscape photographer, I personally prefer to go shooting with at least one photo buddy because it's a lot safer. It's a lot more fun because landscape photography, when you're out there on your own, can get really boring sometimes. And it's also good if you encounter any vicious wild animals to be with a friend who is slower and tastier than you are.
Yeah.
Well, Shanda, maybe you can tell us about how Horizons is different from other conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. When we did some research, we actually started with a survey. Gosh, it's been more than a year ago. If we did a conference, what are kind of some of the things that you would expect? And the top two, very close to being equal, were connection and editing. So people really want to connect in various different ways. It doesn't always look the same, but they want to connect. And we did research next on, what was out there, what types of things were happening. Everybody's doing workshops, and Martha and I have done some workshops in the past, and they're fascinating and they're very enjoyable, even personally enjoyable from the teaching aspect. But we had thought about something bigger to bring people together. And Martha and I actually met at a conference several years ago. And I think we said 5 words to each other, sitting down, during some presentation. And then we just connected and kept connecting. And now we're business partners and friends. And then we even have a larger group now that's kind of formed over the last, I guess it's been 2.5 years now. And there's so many incredible benefits to that. So a conference, as we were doing more research, we decided that that's the best way to go for a number of reasons. One, you get a whole bunch of photographers together, not only fantastic speakers and information, learning opportunities and creative insights, but then you get the numbers of people that you're sitting next to. Sometimes it requires getting out of your comfort zone a little bit to have conversations with those people sitting next to you. But then, so that's kind of standard. But what's different with ours is you can come to the conference. Connection is the underlying key. So not every conference has connection as an underlying, key. So connecting and education. So basically, we're empowering connection and education. Those are, the two main things. But our conference is different in that it allows people to an affordable option to come to a conference, and then you can decide how much further that you can afford and that you have the time to add on. So, for example, some people can do the big conferences with workshops, and those, we're talking, $2,000 to $5,000 plus hotel stay, plus food, et cetera, et cetera. Not everybody can afford that. And so that keeps a whole group of people not able to access, that type of format. And so in this particular one, people can come to the conference. We have on Thursday, so it'd be Friday and Saturday nights, we're going to actually have photo walks, courtesy of some of our wonderful sponsors, which we'll share a little bit in a minute. And then we actually have add-ons. So the add-ons that we have, like the one that you're doing with us through the La Plata Canyon, are affordable. So they're smaller and affordable. And so the day before, the day after, the day of registration. So there's, opportunities for people to be able to sign up for some of those if they choose. If somebody has that extra time, or if they have the, extra money. And then not everybody is into doing workshops, these days. I'm a bit of a wanderer. I kind of like to go out of the boundaries and kind of do my own thing. And when we get into teaching workshops, we're less likely to actually go and attend workshops. But a conference still allows the people who are teaching workshops, learning workshops, educating people, doing, making books, just learning. I mean, it's for every type of photographer and level that's out there. You'll still find something to walk away with, and you'll still have that connection. And so that's what, is special to ours. You can add on what you like to add on.
Well, that sounds good. It sounds like a great opportunity to interact with people and with the instructors, which I think is really important. I mean, you guys already highlighted the benefits of interaction, building community, coming together. And I think being able to do that with fellow attendees, but also with the instructors that are there at the conference, having that opportunity to make those connections is really valuable. So let's talk about the instructor panel that you have assembled, the team of Avengers that are leading this conference. So I'm guessing that one of the minimum criteria you had were that the instructors needed to be witty and devastatingly good looking. But in addition to that, just at the bare minimum.
Ian at the top of the list. Let's see. Ian plans.
I know I'm neither of those things, but I appreciate you guys playing along. Awesome. So maybe you
when we select, we swipe them left and right. Like nope, yeah, no.
It's like Tinder for photo conference leaders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm glad I got the correct swiping. Well, so maybe you can give us a preview of the instructors that you've assembled and tell us a little bit about what you were looking for when you brought this team together.
So for the Horizons Photography Conference, we have a world-renowned group of speakers of exceptional talent. We have Albert Dross, Dusty Doddridge, Matt Payne, Huibu Ho, Sarah Marino, Beth Bulow, Ian Plant, Taylor Stone, Cole Thompson, Michael Bellino, Wayne Suggs, Derek Sturman, Michelle Sons, and Brooks Jensen. And like you mentioned earlier, each one of them creating a brand new presentation specifically for this event.
Oh, that's a great panel. I don't know everyone, but I think I know like 2/3 of the people on the panel. So I can vouch for the people that I know. And the people I don't know, I know who they are. So I actually think this is going to be an exciting panel. And I'm looking forward to connecting with these people as well, meet some new professional photographers and to reconnect with some of my old friends. So this is going to be an exciting event. I'm looking forward to it. And so I just wanted to ask you guys about like your overall photo education philosophy and, how you both are leading workshops. And so you both have your own approach to educating photographers and inspiring them. And so I wanted to let you talk a little bit about that and how you're bringing that into the Horizons Conference.
I can go a little bit. So I think I'll give you time to think, Shanda. You're welcome. So I think one of the things that it's important to consider, or when when you're teaching is, and this has been repeated many times, but it's like having people come with an open mind and not just like a focused in one image that they want to get. So when you get to a place where you're going to photograph, be open to what's out there and let nature, in this case, speak to you and see what catches your eyes. Why do you want to photograph that, and what's the story that you want to tell? So be open-minded about and flexible, because like Shanda will tell you, like when we've led some fall workshops, like the weather doesn't always cooperate with you, and then you end up with bright blue skies, no clouds, no color. So you're gonna have to pivot and switch gears really quick, and be able to show participants or show people what else is there to photograph, and why you can focus on like smaller things, or there's beauty everywhere. You just have to be open to seeing it and capturing it.
I think we both have a similar mindset, and that is to have an open mind. And I've seen too often where people say, oh, you need to pick a specific genre, you need to pick a specific type of photography and stick with it. And I think Martha and I are both of the mindset to have that open mind, to be open to different types of photography, not necessarily to say that, you're going to do it. You may or may not do, ICM, you may or may not do long exposure, whatever the case may be, but to have an open mind. For example, if Albert Dross is talking about learning to see, finding an image wherever you go, I mean, that's applicable to many different types of genres of photography and many different types of locations where you might go to photograph. And so to be open for those influences into your photography can create a beautiful thing and give you little tidbits of ways to approach, your own photography and whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, I think that's vitally important. I always tell people that with photography, you have to take what's offered because, especially if you're doing outdoor photography, you are not in control of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And you can go on a photo trip and have everything go bad weather, bad conditions. Oh, yeah. And, you have a choice to make. Do you embrace what you have happening? Do you try to find a way to be creative, or do you just throw away the trip and come back with nothing? And so obviously the way I frame that, the clear answer is you have to embrace what is being offered to you, and you have to find a way to make images that work with what's being offered. And so flexibility and artistic creativity and curiosity, just wondering what things would look like if, I went over that next hill, or if I just chose a slightly different position, or hey, what might I get if I worked with this light that I normally would think of as being bad light? Those things are the key to making creative photographs that stand out. And so I like the fact that this conference seems to be just sort of centered on that idea, that flexibility and trying different things and connecting and interacting with other people to learn new approaches and to see how other people are doing things. I think that's wonderful.
I just wanted to mention really quick, since we're kind of talking about this, but we did a women's photography conference in February, and just to confirm that we're on the right track, we had a recipe that we thought would create something great, and it actually made something more incredible than we imagined, and we were just flying high for a couple months, I think, afterwards, and for quite a while. And the response that we got and the remarks that we got and the emails that we received, and it just made us feel like we're on the right track. And so if we take that same energy, that same mindset, and put it towards this one, it's a recipe to be wonderful. It's grounds to be wonderful. But some of the comments that we received is that we knocked it out of the park. The vibes were wonderful. The learning and inspiration, the camaraderie were delightful. I left feeling inspired and empowered. It was everything I hoped for it would be and more. It was inspiring and encouraging, and it gave me great connections for networking and new friends to shoot with and encourage each other on. I left with so many great ideas of how to grow as an artist, a photographer, and a business person. I am so grateful for the hard work that the speakers and the conference coordinators put into this conference. It was well worth the money and time. And we have many, many more, even after that, but it just made us feel like we're doing the right thing. So it's kind of a validation that, this is a good mindset to have.
So I hear a rumor that there's going to be something called the Four Corners Expo at this conference. What is that?
We are bringing in an incredible group of sponsors, and we have some already announced on our website, but our title sponsor is going to be a photography business called Picture Line, and it is coming out of Salt Lake City, Utah. I actually met them. I met Colin Bigelow, one of their employees, at a conference at the Outsiders Conference in Utah, and formed this connection. And so when it was time for me to buy a camera or other equipment, I said, hey, there's this Colin person that I met at Picture Line. Turns out they're going to be our title sponsor, which is really incredible. And not only that, but they're bringing with them a lineup of incredible brands. So not only is this going to be a traditional type of trade show at a conference, we're making it into a Four Corners Photo Expo where we're going to advertise it throughout the states of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. And in the afternoon of Saturday, times are not determined yet, we're going to open it up to the public so that even local people who are at the conference can come in and see some of their favorite brands and vendors.
Well, I'm also excited about the excursions. Maybe Martha, you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when we were planning the conference, we wanted to give people an option to extend their trip either before, come earlier or stay later. And we didn't want to plan workshops because of the permits and all that stuff. So we decided to add excursions that people can add on for a smaller, it's very, very affordable price. So we are going to have a Jeep adventure, which I believe you're going to be part of, Ian. That's going to be pretty amazing. Shanda and I have done a Jeep adventure in the summer. So I know it's going to be super fun. And then we're also going to have a fall drive, that takes you through different parts of Colorado, or within the same area. I wrote a couple blogs about it where you can kind of talk about going to Uray or the $1 Million Highway. So we're going to take you guys on that drive and be able to stop at different locations and photograph and experience just the beauty of Durango and the mountains. So, and then we might add a couple more. We're still kind of thinking about that, but those are two of the ones that we have right now.
Well, I'm excited about that Jeep adventure. Not exactly sure what it's going to entail, but it sounds great. And I am super excited about this conference. And I definitely encourage everyone who's interested in doing some amazing fall color photography and who would love to extend their continuous photo education opportunities to check out the Horizons Photo Conference in Durango, Colorado this October. It's going to be a blast. It's an amazing panel of people. Martha, Shanda, thank you so much for joining us here. It's been a real pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to meeting you both in person.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're grateful that you had us on today, and we look forward to meeting you in person as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you. All right. Bye.